Hello, Massive. It's DJ Bubbles here. Good afternoon, and for those of you here in Canada, in Toronto, I hope you're enjoying the last little couple of days of beautiful weather. You done know. It's always nice to step outside and feel the blessing of God's sunshine. You done know. So I'm here today to talk about, I've spoken about this before, but I'm here to reiterate my concerns with the Michael Garron Hospital. It's here in Toronto, East York, on Coxwell. As most of you already know, my son has been a patient at this hospital since April the 2nd. He was originally admitted because supposedly bad case of gangrene and his feet were amputated. Now my son is an individual living with mental illness. He has never committed murder. Although he lives with mental illness, he has never caused bodily harm or physical harm to anybody else. To date, since he was admitted to the hospital on the 2nd of April, today is September the 14th, during that time frame, which is almost 6 months, my son has never been outside. He's missed the entire summer, everything. He hasn't been outside. Now, from what I understand from the law, even prisoners are granted 1 hour per day to breathe in fresh air. When you study the Mental Health Act, it does say when you study to become a provider of mental health services, they do tell you that part of promoting good mental health, that it's very important that you go outside every day, because being locked up can also have a negative impact on your mental health as well. Now, I've written to CBC Canada. I've written to CP24. I've written to CTV. I've contacted the patient ombudsman. I've tagged Justin Trudeau, the mayor, all these people, and it's like nothing is getting through to these people. Like, they're not listening. Either they can't hear me or they just don't care. But I just want to share with the world that there is a hospital in Canada that has a black young man who has been admitted since April the 2nd that has not gone outside for 5 months. Now, I called, myself and a friend of mine called today, because this is like, for a country that has so much human rights and the Charter of Rights and Freedom and accessibility policies in place, how can you just sit back? Mr. Trudeau, Olivia Chow, Doug Ford, Attorney General, the Minister of Health. How can you sit back every day and allow this to happen to somebody? I've never heard of somebody not being allowed outside. Now, we condemn other countries that we label as third world and say their practices, they're underdeveloped and what have you. But how developed is Canada? How developed is Michael Garron Hospital, that all these doctors and nurses do not think that not allowing my son Joshua to get even a breath of fresh air for an hour a day, how can you not think this will impact him? Now, when my friend and I called the nurse, Sean, that answered the phone today, he decided to not answer our questions when we had questions that was pertaining to the law and human rights. He transferred the call to my son, who is an individual living with mental illness. Now, how can you manipulate a mentally ill patient because you don't want to answer a question because you don't feel like taking accountability and transferring it to my son? So it's like you're playing with his mental state because you know he's not mentally well. Yet this perpetuates in Canada. I watch the news every single day. I seen that CP24 will air a white lady who got scammed for roofing, but you won't listen to the cry of a black mother with a black son who has never murdered anybody, never killed nobody. And even if he did, even murderers here in Canada are entitled to 1 hour of fresh air a day. It's against the law. So I'm wondering how come no media, nobody wants to listen. Well, I have to do these videos and talk about it and share this with the world that yes, I'm telling you no lie, my child, my son, an individual living with mental illness, has not been outside for the last 5 months. He is a patient at Michael Garron Hospital. In addition to this, my son gets locked into isolation because he doesn't want to bend over and pick up his feces with his bare hands. They seclude him. When I call that hospital, they tell me he doesn't want to talk to me. And then when he calls me, Mom, how come you didn't call me? And I say, well, they told me you don't want to talk to me. And that's a blatant lie. They tell me to get off my government-issued mobility device that is not an explosive, that I can go in the airport with my scooter, I can go into courthouses at 10 Armory with my scooter. The police will do their routine security check. There is no government building that has ever told me, a person living with mobility issues who was given this mobility device from the government of Ontario. I've never been told to get off of my mobility scooter. I've never been told to open my bag so you could search me and dehumanize me and treat me like garbage. The security guards in previous videos, as I've shown you, they are very excessive in terms of force. Now, if this is how they're treating me, and I'm not locked behind those double locked plexiglass doors, can you imagine what they're doing to their patients? I've had a nurse tell me that she's mentally ill because of patients such as my son. And this is Canada. Yes, I want you to know this is happening right here in Canada, in the province of Ontario, in the city of Toronto. I want you to write this down. Michael Garron Hospital. And every time I do and drop a video to share and expose their wickedness to my black son Joshua, they come up with another reason or another hindrance or barrier to keep me from visiting my son. I just have a question for the Canadian media here. Why won't you share my story? Why doesn't anyone intervene and do something about it? But you could talk about the news overseas and act like Canada's doing any better. Well, I'm going to keep on talking and I'll be my own media. One day I'll knock on the right door. Michael Garron Hospital. Remember those 3 words.